and welcome to this 2 Degrees podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Knowles. Today I'm joined by Tim Mohin, Director of Corporate Responsibility at AMD and author of Changing Business from the Inside Out, a tree hugger's guide to working in corporations. In the past, he's worked in CSR at Apple and Intel. So thank you for joining us today, Tim.
My pleasure.
Now, AMD has quite an extensive CSR strategy called the AMD Way, which covers commitment and ownership, customer focus, innovation and leadership. Can you tell me a bit more about this and how the company supports these core beliefs?
Absolutely. So, it's interesting at AMD, this will be our 19th consecutive year of publishing an annual corporate responsibility report. So as you can tell by that long history, CSR is really part of our culture. When the company was founded over 40 years ago, our founder said, people first, products and profits will follow. And that's really given birth to a very strong ethic inside the company towards corporate responsibility. And so it kind of is woven into everything we do. We can talk about it from the aspect of employee engagement, of supply chain management, of environment, health, and safety. There's so many different issues that I think our corporate responsibility program touches on. And my job here is to bring them all together into a cogent story. Part of that story is to figure out what's material. What is really driving our business from a corporate responsibility standpoint. And so we've done some materiality assessments to really look at that issue and try to figure out, as our company changes, how should our corporate responsibility strategy change along with it?
And how's that experience been so far? What sort of alleys are you going down?
Great question. I think that it boils down to three big things. We look at it from the standpoint of our customers, our investors, and our employees. And each one of those has sort of a different view of how corporate responsibility at AMD should go. One great thing is that we have a very senior level of attention here at AMD on these matters. And so I have briefed our executive staff, our general counsel briefs our board on this, and we get the feedback directly from them. So how does that manifest? I think when you start looking at it from the investor standpoint, for example, we go out on the road, like I'll be doing next week, and talk to our socially responsible investors about the things they care about. What often comes up in those conversations are hot topics like conflict minerals, which I'd be happy to talk about more. And with our employees, they're very much involved in doing things on campus, doing things in the community, volunteering, giving their own time and their own money towards causes, and helping them get involved in their causes while at work, I think, is a major part of what we do. And then thirdly, our customers. We're a B2B, business-to-business organization. And so when you look at who our customers are, when you talk about HP and Dell and Apple and so on down the line, that, they have very strong corporate responsibility programs and brands themselves. And so we work with them on large issues, everything from, how we present ourselves publicly to the energy efficiency of our products that we sell and end up in their products.
So the strategy is very comprehensive. It covers a wide range of issues. I definitely want to touch on employee engagement, but you did mention conflict minerals, so maybe we should go with that for a little while. Can you tell me more about the strategy around that?
Absolutely. So most people know the issue now. It's basically, I like to say, blood diamond for minerals, because people have seen that movie and they know the paradigm that many of these minerals are mined from and traded from places that have very poor social standards, and in particular Central Africa. In this case, the Democratic Republic of Congo seems to be the center of this particular activity. And now, as many people know, there's a law in the U.S. that requires companies that source tin, tantalum, tungsten, or gold from that area to do certain amounts of due diligence all the way back to the source of those materials. AMD got out in front of this issue even before that law was enacted. We led a multi-stakeholder coalition with an NGO called Project Enough. And that coalition ended up working with the Securities and Exchange Commission to provide comments on the formulation of the regulation as well as the law itself. In fact, the final rule that came out from the SEC referred to our comments over 70 times. And the reason for that is we were the only multi-stakeholder coalition that represented both industry views and environmental views coming to the table. So that was part of the policy. Internally, we have been very successful in terms of tracking our sources of these minerals that go into our products. We've now identified over 180 smelters and refiners of those materials, and we've been very transparent. We published that list on our website so everybody can see what we've done thus far.
Wow. So you were kind of leading the way on that in some ways.
We feel we are. Other companies are, of course, also doing leadership things, and one of the key things to remember about conflict minerals is collaboration. No single company can do this on their own. You might note that I'm the chairman of the board of the Electronic Industry Citizenship Coalition, the EICC, and that's the leading organization that is driving conflict minerals compliance. And I think that, any single company, even any single sector, given the breadth of how these materials go through the economy, can't do this alone. So we've been working through the EICC with others in electronics and actually branching out to other sectors. Everything from automobiles to aerospace now are joining us in the Conflict-Free Smelter Initiative.
Wow. I mean, do you think that collaboration goes across CSR, not just in conflict minerals, but in lots of these sort of issues?
It's an interesting question because I've called it collaboration. In some cases we collaborate, in some cases we compete. Let's be honest. I mean, companies are very interested in their reputations. Much of the reputation is being manifest now through corporate responsibility actions. I think that's ultimately a good thing, but it does lead to some competition. You've had companies step out even on the conflict minerals issue to make public announcements about their conflict-free products. And that's being done, on a company-by-company basis rather than on a collaborative basis. However, when you look at what actually is being done on the ground, most of the real work, most of the work that is making a difference is being done collaboratively through EICC and other organizations.
I really like the term, collaboration. It's a good way to sum it up. So what are internally, what do your employees, what's the culture like for the employees working for a company that is taking action on these issues, and how do you support your colleagues and keep them engaged?
Yeah, we do surveys of our employees to see, what really motivates them at the workplace. When we start talking about employee engagement, this is when the executive C-suite and the CEO gets very excited, because the definition of an engaged employee is an employee who is giving personal time and personal effort towards work. And I find that interesting because I must be really engaged. I've always done that. But then again, I have a job that I love. And the common thread there is I love my job because I work for a cause that I care about. And when you start to engage people on that level, when you start to appeal to their altruism and have them actually engage in a cause, then it's pretty easy to see that they become engaged in their work. And so that's the kind of thing we're looking at. In fact, we just got a survey back that showed that our corporate responsibility programs here at AMD were tied for the second most approved item in the entire survey and had the fewest amount of negative responses. And so we started to break down that data. And one of the interesting things that you see, and this is very relevant to other surveys that we're seeing, is that it's the young people, the Gen Ys, if you will, or millennials, that overwhelmingly support corporate responsibility and want to do more, and they want to do it through their work.
Very interesting findings. And I know that in October last year, AMD hosted its 4th annual Global Volunteer Month. And you had 500 AMDers racking up 1,500 volunteering hours. So can you tell me how this experience impacted the employees and but also the communities they were helping and AMD itself.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tradition that we have here to get what we call the green shirts out there volunteering in the community. Everybody wears green. We've done a lot of those things. And the way you asked the question was, how does it impact our employees? Having done some of these myself, I can speak from a first-person experience.
Sure.
You get to know your coworkers on a different level. You start to, work side by side. We did one just last month where we were planting trees in an area that had a forest fire. And, we worked pretty hard. And you really start to get to know people in a different way when you do that. And those relationships come back and add value to the workplace. But more than that, what we're seeing with some of these volunteer efforts is skills. And this is, again, another benefit to the workplace, is that when people go out and volunteer in the community, sometimes they find themselves in situations that they would never experience at work. Maybe they have to give a talk, for example. And that experience helps them build skills that's directly relevant to their jobs.
So it's actually it's actually improving their workability.
Exactly. We call it skills-based volunteerism, and it's something that we've been looking at for some time to try and improve those kinds of activities, that are volunteer activities that actually have that skills element.
Yes, win-win situation.
Exactly.
So you said about doing surveys. Did you have any other ways that you measure sort of engagement and impact?
We do. One of the ways that comes to mind is our Go Green program. So we measure all sorts of things in that program, from the number of people who bike to work to the carpoolers and overall commute reduction. We have a lot of people now with electric vehicles, and they, how many electric vehicles we have per site. We actually are overwhelmed with them now. We have charging stations, and the employees have actually set up a little sharing website so they can all get into the charging station during the day.
That's cool.
Because we have more electric cars than we have charging ports at this point. But one of the interesting parts of the Go Green program is we actually surveyed the employees who participate in green teams. This was a couple years back, but the data was overwhelming and compelling because we asked the question, does your participation in the green team help you engage in your core responsibilities or your day job? 96% said yes. It was really a compelling piece of data that kind of backed up what I was saying before, which is when you give people the opportunity to participate in a cause they care about while at work, they're much more engaged at work.
Yeah, and that's such a huge percentage as well.
Correct. And again, it works better with the younger community, which is, of course, what every manager, every company wants, is those smart young minds.
Yeah. And I was reading that you also have Volunteer Excellence Awards.
Correct. So, we do a lot of things to motivate our employees to do more of this. Obviously, it has benefits to the community and to our business, and one of those is the awards. Every year we choose Volunteer of the Year. We have Volunteer Month in October. We celebrate these activities throughout the year on our internal communications, our website. So there's a number of ways that we recognize. We also have Green Team Awards, Environmental Excellence Awards that are in several different categories, like WaterWise. We have one Trash Talker for people who are doing really well on solid waste, Commute Champion, etc.
I thought Trash Talker was going to be something else.
Yeah.
Talking rubbish.
Right.
Are you eligible to enter these awards?
I am not. I fund them. I give them out. I think it would be a little self-serving for me to get them as well.
Fair enough. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of fun things, and you've also got the initiative called Changing the Game, which is leveraging kids' interest in video games. So what's this all about, and what do you hope to achieve with that?
Yeah, great comment. We're a large supplier to the gaming industry. AMD products are in every major game console that is being sold today. Because of that, this is kind of where the shared value between corporate responsibility and business really starts to kick in. We have developed a program over the years that allows children to not only learn through playing games, which is possible, of course, but also learn through developing their own games. And that is, formulated in many different countries now across the planet in a formalized curriculum aimed at primarily the middle school kids, and working very well.
So is the kind of thought behind this, is this kind of a social value in terms of helping children, or are you kind of thinking from a future employability perspective?
It's a little bit of both. We do, of course, hire engineers primarily. That's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
And skills that these young people are learning are the, quote, STEM skills: science, technology, engineering, and math. And, of course, that's a pipeline into our business. But I think there's also kind of a broader reputational issue. I mean, let's face it, many parents look at games as the enemy. They see those consoles coming into their home and think, oh, my gosh, my kid's going to be stuck on that thing for hours. So, how do we turn that interest that is natural into something that's productive? And I think that helps the kids, it helps the parents, it helps our company's reputation with regard to these products as well.
Yeah. And staying on the computer thread, I was reading about the Titan supercomputer. I thought that sounded really interesting. And so I want to know how powerful it is and also what you use it for, because I know it's to do with your CSR strategy.
Yeah, so I may not be the best person to give you the technical specifications on that. But one of the things we do like to talk about, especially in our corporate responsibility report, is the wonderful social and economic and environmental benefits that are enabled by our technology. And supercomputers is one of those. For example, the Titan that you mentioned at Oak Ridge National Laboratories is ranked number 1 on the top 500 supercomputer list of November 2012. And, it's being used for all sorts of research into everything from, medical conditions to climate change to solving some of the world's toughest problems. And that's all powered by AMD technology.
Wow, very impressive. And I know AMD also uses technology to advance healthcare as well.
Yes, exactly. And so, again, we look for examples where our technology is actually helping people. And in several cases, AMD-enabled technology is helping in health management in developing countries like Nigeria. We have cases where we've had AMD-powered technology helping to diagnose disease like early detection and treatment of breast cancer through advanced medical imaging, which is enabled by our graphics products. And so we look for those examples, and through our new focus on embedded technology, actually want to design technologies into those markets that help people on the planet.
It's amazing, really. So
for me, I think.
Sorry, go on. You go on.
I think this is the epitome of corporate responsibility, when you're able to, have your business interests and society's interests completely aligned. When you're able to design and sell and market products that, you're not just worried about the footprint of creation of those products. You're really hoping that the products get out there into the world because they help the world. There's a number of folks now that are looking at an approach called net positive, which is the social good that the products they create makes in the world is 10x better or 20x better or more than the downside of creating that product. And so that's kind of an interesting concept. It's not one we've adopted wholeheartedly yet. We're still looking at it, but it's certainly when we start talking about the examples you were just asking about, it's certainly something that we're very interested in.
And it's clear from how you're speaking and the passion that, having this alignment between your core responsibilities and doing good it's a real way to engage you in your job.
It is, and you mentioned my book. This has been a passion of mine for many, many years. I used to work in the government, and my abilities to make change in the government were much more limited, in my opinion, than they are with corporations. I believe that you can do so much more if you're able to sort of align those business interests and society's interests, and so that's why I wrote the book.
Right. So, and when did you publish the book?
The book came out in 2012. It's been used in several college curricula around the world. And in fact, I've been teaching at every summer I go to do a guest lecture on the book at Harvard, where they have taught a class in applied corporate responsibility. The point of the book is that I speak to so many young people. I'm a member of the board of Net Impact,
right.
which is a group of sort of sustainability-minded business students. And whenever I go to these meetings, and there's thousands of young people at these meetings, I get the sense they all want to do what I do, which is a wonderful feeling. But the reality of it is not necessarily what they think it is. And I looked around and I found that most of the books on sustainability and CSR really didn't get into that reality. There was no sort of tactical, practical roadmap, if you will, that gave young people who want to work in this field, some guidance about how to be successful and thrive.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's taking the two worlds together. You've got the business, and the word you use in your title is tree huggers. And sometimes they're seen as antonyms, I guess is the word, but this is about putting them together in a way that works.
Yeah, and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, obviously, and the publisher made me put that as the subtitle, so it wasn't originally the title. And the reason I said that is because, let's face it, business is about business. It's about making a profit, selling a product or service that makes a profit.
Yeah.
And, when you show up in the middle of that paradigm and say, well, let's do some good, oftentimes that's not well received. And you have to, what I've been talking about throughout this conversation is create value. How do you create value? And that's what the book's all about. It gives you, tips and tricks through my multi-decades of working in this field that have proven successful.
And why do you think value is a key business differentiator?
Yeah, I call it the corporate immune system. Just like your body sort of rejects anything that's foreign, corporations reject anything that doesn't create value. It's all about, think about it. If you're a publicly traded company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders to make a profit. If you have a lot of entities within your business that are not contributing to that, then, what do? You obviously get rid of them. So how does corporate responsibility help the business succeed? How does it create value? That, I think, is the central thesis of the book, and something that I've spent a lot of time in my career working on.
And do you think, since AMD has actually really adopted this CSR strategy, do you think it's paid back in financial dividends?
Yeah, and that's always one of the most difficult things in this paradigm is measurement. We can measure the costs very well, but the benefits are a little more ethereal. We've talked about them in some of the conversation today in terms of employee engagement, in terms of brand reputation, in terms of socially responsible investment, attraction to our customers. All of those things are, values, but they're much more of the intangible assets on the balance sheet.
For sure. And have you got sort of working towards these metrics?
Yeah, and again, it's hard to measure. One of the things that I really love about what I do is that over time you've seen this trend, or this arc, if you will, in corporate responsibility. And I believe it's because not only the employees, but the management are getting younger. I just seem to get older, but everybody else is getting younger. And when our CEO who's fairly new in the company, and I talked about this, I realized that he's actually a year younger than I am. And his view on corporate responsibility is, of course, we must do that. It's absolutely necessary. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. And, that's an attitude that frankly, a person maybe 10 years his senior might not have had. So that change, I think, is now starting to really take root, where this is an expectation among employees and managers.
Yeah, definitely. So to finish off, what do you want to see in the future of AMD's CSR strategy?
So we touched on this a little bit before, but I'd like to see more purpose-driven design for people on the planet. In some of the cases we discussed about how our technology helps people, those are, commercial products that can help people, but aren't necessarily designed for that purpose. And I would like to see that we start to build and think about those markets that are helpful to people on the planet, with our core competencies being the engine enabling that altruism, that help. Because to me, that supports the business and it supports society.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much for speaking with us today. I really enjoyed our discussion.
Thank you, Victoria. It was a pleasure for me as well.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into this 2 Degrees podcast. Bye-bye.